up, as New Yorkers head to the polls for the mayoral primaries, we will discuss what it means for the city's real estate with Bess Freedman of Brown Harris Stevens. That's next. This is Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Markets. I'm Matt Miller. New Yorkers head to the polls today to choose Democratic and Republican mayoral candidates who will then advance to November's general election. What will the next mayor mean for the future of the city's real estate? Let's bring in Bess Freedman, the CEO of Brown Harris Stevens, to discuss. Bess, I'm looking for a place in New York. I'm hoping to move back to the tri-state area at some point in the next year. And every time I talk to someone in the area, I hear there's a lot of crime all of a sudden. I grew up in the city in the 70s. I can't believe it's that bad. But is it enough that people are noticing and maybe making decisions based on that?
Hi, Matt. Nice to be with you today. Yeah, listen, it's definitely not anything like the 70s, but crime has ticked up for sure in the city. And I think that's why the mayor's race is so important. We need a change in the city, and we want someone who is going to put safety first and also be able to unify a very divided city. We want, our communities to be heard. We want to make sure that we're working with the legislators in Albany to make sure we have responsible tax policy so that we don't send, companies to Florida and deter people from wanting to raise families here. So there's a lot on the ballot, and I think everyone needs to show up and vote. If you vote, you can complain with integrity. If you don't vote, I think you shouldn't say a word.
So how, we hear so much about the possibility of moving to Florida for executives, for higher earners who face a cap on their SALT deduction now, and also are just looking at places that are friendlier in terms of tax and regulation. Is that actually happening? Do you see high net worth individuals leaving? Because the prices that I see on real estate, both in Manhattan and in Westchester, are still sky high.
Yeah, even before the pandemic, people were fleeing the city to go to lower tax bracket places like Florida. And so that was definitely happening. We saw migration pre-pandemic. Then during the pandemic, because New York City was an epicenter, people left the city then, went to Florida, went to Connecticut, to the Hamptons, those places. And now, because of all those things, plus crime has ticked up a bit, and there's still this sort of egregious tax policy being proposed and spoken about. A lot of people are saying, you know what, why am I going to pay these taxes? It's crazy. I'm going to move to a place where it's lower and I can save money. And so that's a real threat. We need to try to get a more moderate tax policy in place in New York City so people will come here and open businesses and stay here. And so that's what's a real threat today, is that we want people to invest and believe in the city and not deter things like the Amazon deal, which was such a shame that we lost that. That would have been thousands of jobs for our city.
What do you see in terms of people moving, Bess, from Manhattan and Brooklyn out to Long Island, down to New Jersey, up into Westchester?
There was a lot of that during the pandemic. We saw a lot more of that. But now we're seeing a lot of people come back because people miss the city. And the city is back. We're doing incredibly well. People are investing. The market is very fluid because we did have oversupply. And I believe the pandemic served as a bit of a catalyst to correct some of the overpricing. And so people are back and wanting to be here. But again, I can't stress the importance of the mayor's race, the controller's race, 30 some odd city council seats, and the city council determines the budget for New York City. So these things are so important, and I hope people will get involved, go out. The polls are open till 9 o'clock, and I care so much about our city, and I want to be here forever, and so I just hope people will go out there and vote.
Bess, are there candidates on both sides who you think are best positioned to draw back in not only big employers like Amazon, but also put police back on the streets and fight crime?
There are a lot of great candidates that are supporting safety first, responsible tax policy, and you know, there are others that are more progressive and way to the left. And I think if we continue on that path, very to the left, the extreme left, I think the city will continue in a downward spiral. And I think you'll see more crime, more people leaving. I think it would hurt us incredibly. And I hope that people just pay attention to who's running, know what they stand for, look at who's endorsed them, and then vote. Vote with your heart.
You're not running, are you, Bess? Are you running for any office? No, right?
I've got kids to raise. I'm not running. I love this city. It's not just about professionally, you know, I'm in the real estate industry, but I'm emotionally attached to the city. I love it. I want people to come in and go see Hamilton and go to the museums and love the culture, the language, diversity. I mean, this city, I have a romance with this city. It is the best city in the world. And I just want us to flourish. That's all, Matt. I care about it.
What, in terms of residential, we've been seeing a lot more people who want condos rather than co-ops. I guess it's always an easier choice, right? If you want independence and freedom. Do you expect that to continue?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of a condominium, even though it's a much smaller percentage, I mean, the housing stock in New York City of what you can buy, it's roughly 70% are cooperatives, which is a more stringent process to purchase. And condos give you flexibility. You have to submit a package, but it's not as onerous. And they just have the right of first refusal, and you can usually rent a little bit more freely. And if you don't live here full time, there's a lot more flexibility. So people prefer that sometimes if they're not here full time. But co-ops are, a great part of our city as well. And they protect you from some of the financial challenges that we had, during Lehman and that sort of thing, because they're so stringent with how they look at people who are applying to get into their corporation.
Bess, thanks very much for joining us. Great to spend some time with you. Bess Freedman there of Brown Harris Stevens talking to us about the real estate market and the mayor.